Right now in Tech Radio, 90 private jets plus 200 rich people equals one angry city.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. This is episode 1075 this week in association with B&M Accelerate Green. And as always, looking at the 7 biggest stories of the week, including the wedding of the year, social media danger in the USA, and Trump's new phone is not quite as MAGA as we thought. Plus, we'll be finding out more about how startups are using green tech in interesting ways with Frank Daly from JTM Energy, Paul Mahon from What Footprint, and Michael O'Shea from Pulse Market, who are special guests on the podcast later
From
on.
TechCentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
My name's Dusty. Joining me as always, the man at the top of the tech tree, our editor-in-chief and expert on all things electronic, Niall Kitson. How are you?
Not too bad. You're making it sound like I might be stuck up the top of the tree.
Well,
might need
no,
some assistance to rescue me.
I'm trying to evaluate how big this tree is, because I would have thought right now, instead of recording the podcast, you would be at a certain wedding in Venice. That's how high up I think you are in the tree.
I should be living it up in Venice right now.
Yep. Because what's going on there? Because
we are getting the nuptials between one Jeffrey Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. The social event of the season. When you think about it, in some respects, if somebody was to say to you, we're getting married, and you're like, delighted, that's brilliant, and we're inviting 200 people, and you think, oh, okay, that's sort of a standard to mid-range wedding. That's, that's normal. Then you hear, and we're renting out a city.
We're renting a city. And this is where the problem is.
It's going to cost $45 million. Yeah.
So basically you're saying that Jeff Bezos is having his wedding in Venice. He's essentially closed down the city because he's renting it, and it's costing him $45 million, which to Jeff Bezos, in fairness, is like 50 cents to you and I.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's a nice gesture and all, but he's not going to feel the financial pinch out of it. Given the fact that lots of people take out loans to cover their weddings, for him, it's just sort of a snap of the fingers. He can just be all Thanos about it.
Take it alone. However, all of this is not going down well with Venetians.
It is not, no. And there has been a pressure campaign organised by local residents and also a few other groups as well. For example, Greenpeace is involved with it. There is an anti-oligarch movement called Everybody Hates Elon. I wonder who inspired that. And there's No Space for Bezos, which is the Venetians themselves. And Everyone Hates Elon rolled out this fantastic banner in St. Mark's Square, which is sort of the main concourse in Venice, and an absolutely beautiful space it is too, which basically said, if you can afford to rent out a city, you can afford to pay a little bit more tax. And I figured, you know what, that is the issue of our times. We have a ridiculous level of conspicuous consumption by a very, very small number of people, at the expense, some pun intended, of the majority, of the rest of us, who will never have access to, the company of such people, the great and the good in our society. So having a look at sort of the guest list, I mean, there's very little in the way of, family obligation going on here for such a small wedding. We have Kim Kardashian, Mick Jagger, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kim Kardashian, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce and Jay-Z, and the Trumps as well. Some of the Trumps, Ivanka and family, will be there as well. So, this isn't, looking after your Auntie Mary and your cousin Joe straight off the bat. This is, who do we surround ourselves to convey a sense of our affluence and the opulence of the occasion. You're not picking real people, you're picking accessories.
Yeah. Do you think Bezos... did you mention Katy Perry? I think she's going as well, because she was up in the...
No, she's not. Orlando
She's not
Bloom
going.
is going. Katy Perry is on tour in Australia.
Interesting.
I gather there's some domestics going on there as well. I really wish I didn't know this, but somehow I do.
When it comes to uber rich people like that, as many of our tech millionaires are, you know how you and I are going to a wedding, all right? If you and I were going to a wedding for a friend of ours or whatever, and it was in Cork, the first thing we would say is, listen, do you want to share a lift? I'll drive and you can drive my car back or whatever it happens to be. And it just makes sense. Are we having that kind of a scenario with all of these superstars? I don't think they're going to be in cars or Teslas, probably in private jets. Are they lift sharing?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there's 90 private planes coming in. But if there's only 200 guests...
That's two people per jet. Oh, my God.
The horror.
Oh, what a horrid. Now it's not only the people of Venice that hate Jeff Bezos. It's you and I. No, but I seriously, what a ridiculous waste. What a ridiculous waste. They could have gone like a big Boeing private jet or whatever that can carry whatever 200 people or whatever. It could have everyone or two private jets or whatever and just ferry them all from this.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, do you know one person who also won't be too bothered by all this sort of shenanigans going on over the next 3 days?
No idea. Go on. Who?
We, of course, have the first Mrs. Bezos, Mackenzie Scott. She is living her best life at the moment. She got, at the time, was the world's most expensive divorce settlement. I mean, she's worth 38 billion, which is tied to Amazon shares. She's got 4% of Amazon. She is committed to giving away half of her wealth to charity by the time she dies. And she is known as sort of a philanthropist, a writer, and just an all-around fantastic human being. It makes you wonder, like, how much of Amazon, was down to her. I mean, she was a co-founder, and how much is just, Yeah, I mean, how much is down to her? Probably an awful lot more than she gets credit for.
Any word? I know that we're veering off tech stuff, but this is great. Mackenzie Scott. So there's been a divorce and there's been a big settlement there. Any word of a prenup on this particular thing? Any value for what Jeff is valued at? And of course,
and how? I mean, Jeff Bezos is valued at $227 billion. That's his value.
Oh, that's $113.5 billion if they split it half and half.
Well, I mean, the mother of all prenups has been signed, as you can imagine. Okay. I mean, if things don't work out,
got it covered.
It's covered.
Do you know what? If I married Jeff Bezos today, I'd be divorcing him in the morning. I'd do the one night. And then that would be it. It was like that old movie with Woody Harrelson, wasn't it? It was I'll give you $1 million for one night with your wife.
Well, I mean, by today's standards, that's not a great deal at all, really.
I know it's not. But for 113 billion, would you?
I would compromise any of my morals for that. If I was to come home with a large bag of cash and say, look, I did something a bit stupid, but we can afford a deposit on a house in Dublin now. So
there you go. Yeah. Now on a one bed now. Let's not run away with ourselves. Other tech news this week. We were talking about Trump Mobile last week, and he's going on, but there's a special phone, and it's going to be American, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be called the T1, and you and I were both kind of going, there's no way that's made in America. No smartphones are made in America, and we know how big Trump is on things being made in America. What's the word this week on where the Trump mobile phone is or is not going to be made?
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump Mobile is pretty interesting case, really. As we talked about last week, it's an MVNO. It's a virtual network operator. And they are actually using the network of Liberty Mobile. I wonder if that is any relationship to World Liberty Financial, which is part of Trump's crypto interests, the Trump family's crypto interests at the moment. And it looks like the T1, the Trump phone, our wonderful golden god, is actually a reskinned version of the Revel 7 Pro 5G which is made by a Chinese company called Wingtech. That neither of us will have had cause to have heard of. I don't know if you have, but it's basically going to be that in a golden cover. Did we expect any different?
No, we didn't. We didn't at all. Other news this week, Tesla. Now, they are doing something interesting. If you want to look at what life is going to be like in 20 or 30 years' time, let's look at Austin, Texas.
Yeah, well, I mean, Austin, of course, is where Tesla has its base now, for as long as they don't have their own city, as we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. So trials of the Tesla robot taxi have begun, and okay, right. Here's the upside and here's the downside. Right, we'll talk upside first. The market loved it. Shares were up 9%. The Monday after the trial started. So the trial started last Sunday. By Monday, the share price on Tesla had gone up 9%. That's good news. Everybody's happy about that in Tesla land. Okay, will we start into the bad news?
Yes, please. My favourite bit.
Your favourite bit. Okay. The bad news is that they're not entirely automated just yet. Right? There's nobody in the driver's seat, but there is somebody in the passenger seat. Right? So these aren't unsupervised rides. Okay? So the self-driving tech is actually working away, but it's still under human supervision. There's still a human in the loop there. Right?
Okay.
And guess what? The investigations have started already. And I'll give you a couple of examples of things that have raised a few red flags.
Go on.
Okay, this was compiled onto Reddit. I've read a few of these elsewhere, so I'm fairly confident of these. Okay, robo-taxi drives into the wrong lane of oncoming traffic.
Oh my God! So cars are coming towards. Oh, that's not good.
Not great with lanes. If you're a rider and you press pull over, the robo-taxi stops in the middle of an intersection while the rider gets out, and the robo-taxi blocks the intersection for a few moments. So if you can imagine stopping in the middle of a yellow box and getting out, which is a pretty dumb thing to do.
I don't need to imagine that because taxis do that dumb stuff all the time.
Actually, that's something I personally am going to put on the list of bad things for robo-taxi. No banter. No taxi banter.
Well, hang on, you're going to put that on the bad list.
I'd have put that on the bad list. Hey, if I'm getting a taxi, I want the full taxi experience.
So you want to listen to somebody moan on and on and on about how the traffic is and how everything's so expensive and the government has no idea and my wife hates me and all that kind of stuff from a complete stranger.
How are you to find out the pulse of the city if you're not talking to taxi drivers? I mean, and if you can't talk to a taxi driver, well, the city may as well not exist. It's just a bunch of roads. So a couple of other things. Robotaxi going 26 miles an hour in a 15 mile per hour zone. That's not great.
Well, that's not great, yeah.
Robotaxi unexpectedly slams on the brakes, causing rider to drop their phone.
Wow. Wouldn't worry about that.
Robotaxi runs over the curb in a parking lot. That's not great. No. And Robotaxi unexpectedly brakes, possibly due to nearby police. So,
all of these things you have listed is behaviour I would expect from an actual taxi driver. So instead of these being failures, I think that what they're doing is they've done a very accurate representation of what a taxi journey should be, except for the fact that you don't get to talk to the taxi driver because you're one of the weird people who likes doing that.
Well, I tell you, if that's what they did, if that's how they train the AI, if they just got the behavior set of every taxi driver, plugged it into an AI and said, there you go, that's the ideal right there. None of this rules of the road stuff. Just the worst habits of professional motorists around the world. But anyway, there's a full list up there on Reddit under our self-driving cars. It's good fun.
It is interesting, though. That
one thing I will say in favour of robo-taxis, $4.20 wherever you want to go. Flat rate.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa! Oh, well, that's an introductory offer, isn't it?
In all likelihood, yeah.
Is it
enough to put your life in your hands?
I would try it. In city driving, I would absolutely try it for because you're not really going that fast in a city.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few places that you could do over 100 kilometres in a city environment, or even over 80 kilometres an hour. And so, like, if you're going to hit a wall, well, you get out of the car, of course. The first thing you do is grab your neck. I know.
No. I thought that's those days were
regardless,
over, anyway.
Regardless of how you're feeling. First thing you do in an accident now is you come out and you grab your neck and you go, I know.
Well, I tell you one last thing. As you said, the market responded well to the trials, despite everything that's gone on since. Offset somewhat by figures that came out during the week from Europe, showing Tesla sales down 27.9%. That's sales of new vehicles. So there was a 4% dip in the share price. So net, as of this Friday, shares are up 5%.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, the shares go up and down all the time.
Sure.
Listen, I want to chat about people going into the States on their holidays and something they really need to be aware of with their phones. And then also WhatsApp are bringing a new AI feature, which actually might be good. But first, tell me about Meta, because there's been this whole copyright and stuff like that, and then what you're training your AI on and what you can and you can't. Meta has actually had a really big win during the week. Tell me about it.
Two really interesting cases on how AI is trained at the moment, both down to copyright. Now, the first case was brought against Meta by a load of artists and writers, including Sarah Silverman, well-known stand-up comedian, who argued that having their material used to train an AI without their consent was a breach of copyright. And their argument effectively was, well, if you're using our stuff to train your AI, it is actually reducing the demand for our material in the open market. And a judge disagreed with them. And they're in fairness, I think the judge has it spot on. I think the judge has made, both judges, because we're talking about two cases here, made really interesting points. In the Meta case, the judge responsible, Judge I'm going to have a tough time pronouncing this, but Judge Vince Cabria in San Francisco didn't entirely squash the suit. He said, look, okay, on these grounds, you don't really have a very good case. That's not to say there isn't a case to be made for redefining fair use in when it comes to AI trained on
copyrighted works.
Copyrighted works.
Yeah. So basically, what the judge is saying is the argument you're making is not going to work, but there's something there, so you need to come back and come at it from a different angle.
Yeah, come at it from a different angle. See if you can make it work. His sort of, it's not even a solution was of the, opt-in to allow my work to be used to train AI. I don't know if that's a runner, but I mean, the fact that the judge said, look, on these grounds, no, but there probably is an argument for permission. Now, I think that's a really good point the judge made, that, look, there is this collective corpus of knowledge out in the world. If we read a book, I read a book by Dusty Rhodes. I am inspired by this book by Dusty Rhodes to go off and start a podcast. That does not mean Dusty Rhodes gets to sue me for starting a podcast. You have contributed to my knowledge that I've gone and applied during the world. This does not mean that demand for Dusty Rhodes' book has gone down. If anything, it might even go up. However, the fact that nobody knew, maybe nobody knows that I was inspired by Dusty Rhodes' book, maybe that's an issue, but it does not dilute the interest in podcasting. It does not dilute your standing as an expert. So, I think the judge made a good point there. Again, maybe the wrong question. at, but sure, we'll see where it goes. Now, let's have a look at a second case that is being brought against Anthropic, who is the developer of Claude, right? And they look, it looks very similar. So the argument made against Claude, against Anthropic, is when we read something, we retain the knowledge, we use it to create something new or inform our decisions. Why should AI be any different, right? Say we go to school, right? Say we go to a posh school, we pay money, we learn something, right?
Yeah.
Claude's version of going to school is effectively being trained on all this data it's being subjected to, right?
But it's not paying it's not paying any school fees, and it's not paying for the books.
Exactly. And here's the argument Anthropic is going to find itself up against. It's not so much that they trained themselves, that it was trained using this information. It's, where did you get that information? Right? Okay, you say you trained, yourself on all these classic works of literature. Okay, where did you get them? Did you download them on a free market space where these things are open access already? Did you download works that are still in copyright? That's a good argument to have. And I think that's something Meta might have to reckon with, because that does speak to, okay, you've got a point, but maybe not the angle in order to come up with some sort of...
and it needs so much, doesn't it, these days? So it's thorny. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on those court cases and see how they go. Moving on, for anybody, now we've heard a lot about in the United States about students going over. Now I suppose most of the students who are going to be spending their summers on their J1 are probably there. But we have a student in our family who studies in the States, and he's home in Ireland for the summer and is hoping to go back in September. So he's kind of caught up in this whole new thing. And I think it also applies to any tourist who's visiting the States. When you arrive in America, now we're blessed, okay? We are blessed here. If you are flying from Dublin, you do American immigration in Dublin, all right? Yeah. So if they give you any messing around or whatever, you have the choice or whatever to go, right, feck you, I'm gone. And just get on the bus and go home. It's not so easy when you arrive after a 6 or 7 hour flight. But people going into the States now, they are demanding to know what's your social media account. They are demanding to be able to see it over a number of years. They are asking for your password. They are asking for your mobile phone and the password for your phone. You've got some interesting stories about this. Yeah,
you can thank the Department of Homeland Security for this. If you're traveling to the US on an FM or a J visa, so like the J1, for example, you will have to have your social media presence set to public. And you will have to present it potentially for inspection. So you're looking, I think, at the last 5 years is what they're interested in seeing. But if you are carrying any jokes, any commentaries, do you know what? This is going as far as memes. I will give you the example of a Norwegian student, Mads Mikkelsen, not that one, who says officials in the US threatened to fine him $5,000 or send him to prison for 5 years if he didn't give them access to his phone.
What?
Yeah, that sounds a bit made uppy. I think somebody on Border Patrol might have been looking to justify their job there. He handed over his phone. The DHS agents saw the meme in question, which is the bald one of JD Vance.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Everybody has that.
Fairly ubiquitous. Yeah. And he was told, no, you're not coming into our country. You're going to fall into line. You're going to love our president the way we do.
Okie dokie. I wouldn't go to, do you know, this is actually gospel because gospel. I read it in the news, that visitors from the EU and Ireland going to the States on holidays are down this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Noticeably down. And it's because of what's going over there. And a lot of it is because of what you have to put up with when you get to the border. What's this? Like, you want to... this thing, whatever about them wanting to see your social media for the last 5 years, is that's what they want to do. But you have to set your profile public so that anyone in the world can come in.
Yeah.
And no doubt it's going to be for a couple of weeks while it goes through the process and stuff like that. No way, man. No way.
Yeah.
Now, I don't talk about, I never talk about politics. Never talk politics, religion or money. All right. Don't do any of that on social media. In fact, if you were to look at my social media, I'll probably put you to sleep. It's probably a good cure for sleeplessness. But anyways, but I would not feel comfortable with that at all. And then I would definitely not feel comfortable with handing my phone to a stranger. I don't care who it is. All right. Yeah. If it's a parent, if it's a partner or something like that, would you give your partner your phone and the password?
Oh, she has it already.
Yeah, all right, okay. maybe that's a bad example. But if we were out for lunch, all right, as we often do, and I said, "Go on, give us your phone and give me the password. I just want to have a root through it." Would you do it?
Oh God, no. I don't know what you'd be doing to my phone.
Oh, exactly. I'd be very worried if I were you. Yeah, exactly. I'd be first thing I'd be searching for is Revolut. So no, I think those. I, in my opinion, think that they are unreasonable, and I'm not surprised that tourism figures are going down for the United States because of these things. And that is a crazy case, as you say, with that example of a student going in and being threatened with a fine of $5,000, which I believe. We're a bit dubious at the prison sentence of 5 years, but then again, they could well have used it. And then having a bold meme around JD Vance, which half the world has on their phones, and then sending him home. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
This is the world we live in, though.
Indeed. Right. Listen, we are coming into the summer. You have to kind of look at the calendar to know that we're coming into the summer. You can't tell with the weather. But anyway, how do you know that if you are booking a summer holiday or something like that through a normal website, that it's not a scam?
Yeah, because we do see these things. Folks get offer emails through book here, and it's a slightly odd looking URL. Maybe there's a typo in it or something like that. If you are in any way concerned about a web address that you are on, either, before you process a payment or something like that, there is a very useful website called scamchecker.ie. It's run by FraudSmart. And this extends to any, website that you might be using, right? Whether it's at a checkout, whether it's the domain in general, they've got a database of websites that are legit and ones that are not. So if you're in any doubt, copy the URL, paste it into the giant box in a scam checker. You can't miss it. And it'll tell you straight out, yes, this is fine. No, it's a scam.
Great little tip. Final story of this week, WhatsApp. A lot of people worry about this Meta AI that seems to have just appeared into their WhatsApp application. And as you know, as I was telling you a number of weeks ago, I had a very long and protracted conversation with this AI in WhatsApp asking how to uninstall it. And eventually it went, can't be uninstalled. Eventually it's like talking to a 4-year-old. You took the sweets, didn't you? No. However, Meta are rolling out kind of an AI thing for chats, and it looks like this might actually be useful and possibly even safe.
Well, let's not go nuts here. Well, I mean, it's WhatsApp. Their entire thing is safety anyway, and encryption. So here is the deal. Your DMs, it will be possible through the power of AI to have them summarized, right? So say you are in a long conversation with someone, you're planning your holiday. There's a pretty good example. And there might be a bit of waffle and there might be a bit of back and forth and a little bit of, I'm not going to stay in anything less than a X-star hotel kind of a thing. The usual negotiations, the usual give and take that go with planning a holiday, If you look at something like that and go, okay, can I just get an action item list out of this, knowing what the boundaries are? Well, hey, WhatsApp has you covered. And they are rolling out this feature, and I think that's actually quite useful. I know. What's your take on it?
Well, the one thing is that they've made a very big thing about the fact that I think the process is done on the phone and it's not sent back to MetaCentral, which is the one thing that I would worry about.
Yeah.
And because they're doing that, and then I was kind of going, yeah. But actually, they went into so much detail and so public in there that there's going to be people around the world who are going, oh yeah, really? And they're going to try and break the code or to find out, and we will hear something about that if it's not trustworthy. But they made such an effort on the privacy side of things that maybe they're telling the truth.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's an oxymoron. Truth, meta. You never find those words in the same sentence.
Unless
they're separated by is not telling. There we go. Grand. Listen, let's wrap it up for this week. Niall, as always, thanks for keeping us up to date with all the news.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
B&M's Accelerate Green Grow programme, delivered in conjunction with Resolve Partners, empowers 9 early-stage enterprises, SMEs and startups driving transformative solutions for a greener future. In the final part of our short series of interviews, Niall Kitson is meeting with 3 more founders who shared their experience testing the tech boundaries of sustainability. This week's guests are Frank Daly from JTM Energy, Paul Mahon from What Footprint, and Michael O'Shea from Pulse Market.
Paul, in looking at What Footprint, one thing that really impressed me on your website was this discussion of power being elusive. If you can tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think, I suppose just maybe a little bit of background of the business. It was, I suppose, 4.5 years ago that we set the business up, and it was myself and my colleague, Paul O'Reilly, and myself and Paul had a lot of experience working in probably large industry in terms of delivering energy savings. And I think at large industry level, the real key nuggets that those businesses were able to achieve was to get visualize where they were actually using their energy at a granular level, and being able to have the knowledge then to actually make savings when it comes to that. And I think for us, when you look at SMEs in particular, which would be our target market, the majority of businesses, the top 3 costs of their business are labour, energy and insurance. And I would say the majority of those businesses can't see where that energy is being used, even though it's one of the biggest costs for their business, which is quite stark. So for us in What Footprint, really what we wanted to do was have a data-led approach to firstly allow those businesses to see where they're actually using their energy, and then being able to actually have the ability to control it. So we developed a platform that basically allows us to take and to make that real-time energy information visible. And then we also have a team behind which helps to make savings on their costs.
So in looking to refine your products then, I imagine you start with a fairly, I suppose, significant range of features you want to include. But seeing as you're dealing with smaller businesses, did you find you had to refine those downwards, or was it a case of constantly receiving feedback and thinking, do you know what, this is something we really need to add, this is something we hadn't thought about before?
Yeah, I think there's always a danger, I think, when you, especially in the software and tech space, that you can make a lot of assumptions of what brings value to customers and to businesses. I think for us, really, what we wanted to do was to ensure that any features or any part of our platform that we developed was based on actually, I suppose, value to the client, and being able to validate those features along with what value it's bringing. So for us, it was to look at what the key pain points were for businesses. Firstly, what they actually would value in a platform, and then the features that come with that then as well. I think it was to look at that approach firstly. So there's a lot of things that we could do with our platform, but we wanted to ensure that for those SMEs, that what we were bringing forward was actually going to make a difference in terms of managing their costs. So firstly, that ability to visualize where their energy is being used. The price point was quite important for those businesses that don't have the same, I suppose, resources that a large industry would have. The other piece that we had, which was automated energy bill reading, being able to take that bill, which is gospel at the end of the month, being able to interpret the information from that and kind of tie all that together. So we're constantly, I suppose, validating each feature that we bring forward, you know, what value it's bringing, what price it's going to bring. And that kind of is the direction of where we are bringing any new features that we bring onto our platform.
Frank, just to move the conversation on to you, Your company is JTM Energy. You're looking at energy from kind of, I'm going to say, a hardware perspective. For anyone's looking at your website or your products, it certainly seems to be addressing a problem of managing power at kind of the industrial level. You're looking at servicing large companies. So tell us a little bit about your offering.
Just a little bit about JTM. We've been around for about 30 years, tinkering with batteries in various applications, starting out with the development of a heavy-duty jump starter, which is used for jump starting the likes of trucks and trains. They're still being sold by their hundreds every year. So from that start about 30 years ago, we now have a range of battery energy storage systems, which is basically a box with batteries in it where we can actually store electricity and use it at its optimum period. So where we're actually getting a lot of traction at the moment is in the construction sector, in off-grid applications. So if you look at a crane or any construction site, you'll find generators on the site if they don't have any grid connection. And those generators are typically running 12 hours a day for as long as the site is open. And that's regardless of the load. So if you look at cranes, they don't move all the time. That's when they're actually pulling load. A lot of the times they're just standing there static, not doing anything, but the generator at the bottom of it is still running, burning fuel needlessly. The analogy I always use is it's like a car stuck in traffic running idle. That's if you don't have a hybrid car. So what we do is we introduce a battery into the site. So again, using the crane as an example, we'll park a battery beside the generator at the bottom of the crane, and the crane will be charged or will be fed from the battery, be supplied with electricity from the battery, and the generator is now only used to charge the battery. So the effect of that is that we're noticing run times on generators being reduced by as much as 80%, and you'll have the accompanying diesel savings because of that. So we're getting a lot of traction now in the construction sector. We like for a number of reasons. One, obviously, it's very attractive from a cost savings point of view. But secondly, we're making the sites a lot more quiet. And thirdly, which feeds very nicely into what Michael's going to be talking about, is that it helps with the reporting of ESG, the sustainability reports that the construction companies, a lot of them now have to do on an annual basis. So yeah, that's an off-grid. On on-grid, where we can use the same technology for charging, say, for example, at night when the tariffs are the lowest, and discharging during peak periods when the prices are at their highest. So I suppose the difference between us and other battery energy storage system suppliers is that we're actually building the units here in Wicklow. We're buying in the battery cells, we're building batteries around from those cells, and we're implementing the sort of performance in that battery that we're looking for these energy storage applications, which can be quite onerous on the battery, particularly the crane applications.
So then in working with site managers, do you find it's a very easy concept to get across, or is it a case of guys going, look, I just want my site running. I'm not necessarily looking for, new technology. I've already got a generator that does this. I'm not the budget guy. That's somebody else's problem.
Yeah, the site guys, they don't care really for what you just said there. They just want electrons on their site. They just want things running. What we found is that to sell this concept, there's a number of touch points that are required. So you'll be dealing with the plant managers, you'll be dealing with the M&E, mechanical and electrical directors, you'll be dealing with the purchasing manager, and you'll be dealing with the basically the service manager. So there's a number of people that need to be convinced about this, because it's still quite new technology, and it's a departure from the status quo, which is rent a generator, stick a generator in, put the diesel in it. But once they see it, and once they see it in operation. They can see that they're saving diesel on site, that the sites are a lot more comfortable to work on because they're quieter and there's fewer fumes. Site managers are then very much convinced and converted, if you like. But one of the interesting things that we're coming across is that the site managers and those that are responsible, they forget to refill the diesel generator because we still need the generator to charge the batteries. But because the site has now gone quiet, they forget that they are still dependent on a generator, and they forget to top up the tank. So we, going back to one of the questions you asked about, Paul, about like how do we actually modify and make our equipment more suitable to the client. One of the adaptations we're going to do is we're going to add in a fuel sensor into the diesel tank that could come into our system so that we can issue warnings to the client in advance of the diesel running out on the site. So we're always trying to adapt our equipment and make it more suitable to the site managers and the users.
Michael, tell us a little bit about Pulse Market. It was mentioned briefly by Frank, the sort of the CSRD reporting element of the platform. So tell us a little bit about how it works.
CSRD is one small part of it, but basically what we have is an ESG data management platform. So it manages data in a robust, secure, central repository, but for multiple purposes. So it creates that central source of truth for ESG data. But the principle we apply is to store it once with good data governance and good data lineage, but use it many times. So you can use it for clients or, as Frank alluded to there as well, in the construction sector in particular, but it's not limited to the construction sector. SMEs and larger corporates of all sizes increasingly are required to respond to their existing clients to provide evidence of their ESG credentials, if you will, in order to retain business. So that to keep those existing clients, you need to provide your ESG credentials to win tenders very often, both public and private. 10-15% of the score can apply for the ESG credentials. And there's also the reporting that you alluded to, whether it's CSRD or what now is very focused is the voluntary SME ESRS, which is what is being used by most businesses that are either SME or kind of mid-tier corporate. And then there's other certifications like B Corp and EcoVadis and SEDEX and Origin Green. There's a plethora of different kind of targets, but it's ultimately the same data set. So what we like to say is kind of what Sage or QuickBooks or Xero is for financial data, Pulse is that for your non-financial sustainability data.
I suppose that brings with it an element of, transposable skills where you would have an accounting team that are already very familiar with a certain style of problem solving that could fairly easily apply the same principles, that same level of detail to energy reporting as well.
Yeah, eventually, but it's going to be a curve to get the accountants there. Like many of them are beginning to engage more seriously with the ESG data and ESG reporting, but it's a slow process. And very often what you'll find is in most SMEs or most kind of mid-tier corporates, they don't have the requisite experience in the finance function or elsewhere. And so very often what they're doing is they're reaching out to the green consultants, the sustainability consultants who have that expertise and who can help bring them up the curve. And in time, whether it's the finance team or kind of the sustainable team or others, to actually empower them within the firm. But that takes time. And initially they're going externally for consulting support.
And do you find that you're constantly looking at the user experience then to help simplify the product, to make sure that people don't necessarily have to bring in outside consultants?
Yeah, well, I mean that's the end goal, the end goal, right? And as Paul said, very often in software, there's a fear or a danger or risk of building things that aren't actually you make assumptions on behalf of the client without necessarily engaging with the client. And so we're very focused that we have two communities that we engage with in particular. Those aforementioned sustainability consultants. They're the ones with the bigger strategic understanding of what the client ultimately needs to do and where this data needs to go. So we work very closely with them and are partnered indeed with quite a number of them. And a lot of what we do in terms of our product roadmap is informed and guided by those sustainability consultants. But we also spend quite a bit of time talking to the end client to ensure that their specific use cases and problems are being addressed and that they have a voice, if you like, in the product backlog.
Paul, to bring the conversation back to you, one of the things that I notice what Footprint look at is residential spaces as well. I know it's not a core part of your business, but can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, again, I think from experience, I think basically people get bills at the end of the month, an energy bill, and they're actually made not to be understandable. Never mind if you're in a commercial business, but as a homeowner, you have so many things going on, trying to actually understand what this bill means at the end of the month. And, I think we've all seen that energy costs have, spiked and dropped over the couple of years. And it creates a lot of pressure on homeowners as well as businesses. And I suppose with the capabilities that our platform has and the infrastructure that we've built, we're able to offer that then to domestic customers. So it's basically being able to get in behind what that means in your bill and being able to look at the usage side of it then as well to help homeowners basically to control their costs. So one of the things that we're able to do is to start to identify through our hardware basically what the key high energy users are within your home, and then being able to help you to utilize the information that comes from the platform to say, look, if we're able to move at certain times during the day, basically turn things off, turn things on, it just helps to start to get homeowners given the capabilities to be able to start to manage those energy costs. So I suppose it's just on the back of the power that the platform actually has at the minute, we can offer to homeowners at a price point now that's quite affordable, and it really cuts down on their bill each month.
Just to move back to you there, Frank, you're working on a product that's quite different to what the other lads are. However, have you found there to be sort of a positive network effect in meeting people that are kind of in the same space, but not necessarily working on the same kind of hardware?
Yeah, very much. I mean, I think there's no coincidence that it's the three of us that are on this podcast from the cohort of companies that are on the board, the Mahon Accelerate Green program this year. I mean, from our perspective, we're in the business of saving energy. That's what our tech does. Very much compatible with what Paul's doing and with his customers. And we're in the business of actually trying to improve the sustainability profile of our customers, which is very much in compatible with what Michael's doing, and the data management system that he's putting together. So yeah, we've found that the Accelerate Green program has been excellent in terms of the team that it's built. Now, I believe that we're now all pretty much part of a network of friends that are there to kind of celebrate each other's successes, but also support each other as well. It's been excellent that way. Not to mention the network that has been presented to us in terms of the mentors that have been brought in as part of the program and the guest speakers that they brought in at lunchtime and in the evenings. It's been excellent.
It's probably worth me jumping in at this point. Oh, excuse me. I was going to just mention, based on a little bit what Frank was saying, is that I bought my first electric car in the last 6 months as a result of taking a lift back from Tullamore to Dublin in the passenger seat of Frank's car and deciding, do you know what, this is a nice car, and I went out and bought the same one. So collaboration at every level.
And that was Niall Kitson with Frank Daly, Paul Mahon and Michael O'Shea. To find out more about the Accelerate Green programme, do visit their website. It's accelerategreen.ie. And of course, that's noted in the description area of this podcast for you right now.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some other stories online we didn't have time to squeeze into the podcast, including...
First up, we've got some pro-Russian hackers targeting the recent NATO summit. The European Commission looks for some local alternatives to Microsoft's Azure cloud services. And how the European Space Agency is encouraging Irish researchers to get involved in the space economy.
Cool. You'll find all of those stories and more online at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show for you online and with RTE Radio 1 Extra. In the meantime, please do share our podcast with a friend. Just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify or YouTube if they want to get news about what's happening here in the country and around the world and gadgets and all that kind of stuff. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, as always, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.